Hey guys, this is Bradley Benner with Lead Gadget and the ATM, and tonight is October 15th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna have a brief webinar tonight because the passive and massive webinar with Brian Prinz this evening at 8:30, or excuse me, at 8 o'clock. So this will be short. We didn't have one last week because I was having ATM issues that just got resolved a couple days ago. So we're just going to cover a few small things concerning what we had been talking about from 2 weeks ago. And I'm also going to share something else that I'm working on as a test for affiliate stuff. I haven't really done a whole lot of affiliate sites with these yet, with the ATM yet. So I'm kind of testing that for a launch jack case study that I'm working on for semantic mastery anyways. So I'll share a little bit of that. And then I see that there was a question by Michael Dawes already. So we'll get in to a few things that I want to share first. Then we'll take questions, and then we'll wrap it up. It'll be a very short webinar tonight, and then we'll be back again next week. So with that said, let me go ahead and take the screen, and we'll get right into it. All right, so what I wanted to share with this is I was working on the ring partner sites. I had about a 2-week period where I couldn't build because I was using Amazon EC2 instances, and unfortunately, that's not the best route to go. I was doing it because I wanted to scale as needed because I don't build several sites a day every day of the week. I don't have time to just because I've managed my other business. So I do a lot of playing and testing with this, and so I don't build a whole lot of sites. So I didn't think it was necessary to have a dedicated server, and I was wrong. I should have just had a dedicated server. I went for almost 2 weeks without being able to build because I had multiple issues with my EC2 instances, and I finally was able to pull Don away from all the coding that he's always doing long enough to go in and figure out that my EC2 instances were overloaded with only just a handful of sites on each. In fact, the first one I had set up only had about 5 sites, not even particularly large sites, because those are the ones that I had been working on the local case study with you for you guys, that I had done a couple just like countywide or regional type site builds that weren't even all that big. And that one was just completely slammed. It was so the database wouldn't connect. There was all kind of database errors. So I ended up having to delete several of those sites just to get it down small enough to where it would work. And then I had a second EC2 instance that I had created that was a lot bigger, and I was paying a lot more for it. And I only had 3 sites on it, and it broke it. So they were rather large sites. Again, I don't recommend some of the size of the sites because I'm doing a lot of testing at the moment, but some of the sites were very, very large. But there was only 3 sites, and it broke it. So needless to say, I've abandoned using EC2 instances, especially during these testing phases while I'm trying all kinds of crazy stuff with the ATM. And now I went with a dedicated server, which I just got issued yesterday or the day before. So I just started building again. So I don't have any real new sites except for a couple that I'm going to show you tonight for the launch jack case study that I'm working on for my semantic mastery business. I'm going to share those with you. So that was just to get you up to speed as to where we are, why we didn't meet last week, and the status of the things that we had been working on up until this point. So the ring partner stuff, that's what I had been working on. And I was building out statewide sites, if you guys remember from the previous webinar. And I was targeting multiple keywords per state. Okay, so I was targeting all the cities within a state, and I was targeting as many keywords as I could. And I broke the ATM a couple times, not my server, the ATM. And I'm kidding, of course, but a couple of the sites that I built were way too large, and they'd time out. And in fact, Don even pinged me and said, "What the hell are you doing, man?" Because one of my sites were so big, and he had to reset it. He told me, "No, we can't let that go because it was too big." So I've had to narrow it down quite a bit, and I've got a couple sites now that I've narrowed my keyword list down, and I believe I shared this last time. Let me see if I can just make an example of what I said, just to refresh those of you that may not have seen it. If you have, let's say you've got keyword, do it all in lowercase, keyword 1, and we'll create a sequence real quick. Keyword 2. Okay, so now from this, if I was to start, let's say I wanted to do 30 keywords. Okay, let's say I wanted to target 30 keywords. And let's say that there was, in a particular state that I'm targeting, let's say city 1, we'll say city 2. Let's say that there was I don't know, let's say there was 50 or 100. Let's say there was 100 cities. I know that's a nice round number. But if we had 100 cities and we had 25 or 30 keywords that we wanted to target, it would end up being, the posts would be 30 times 100, right? So what would that be? 30,000. And that gets to be quite big very quickly if you're targeting 200 keywords and you've got 500 cities. Now you're talking about a really, really big site. Okay. And so the way that I had done this, I had showed this the last time, but I'll just walk through it again. I know for the benefit of those of you that didn't see it, let me just show you. There's a tool that I use called Text Mechanic. It's textmechanic.com. And this is line combination generator. From here, if I was to take these values and put column number 1, and let's do this. Let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see the size of what I'm talking about, how these sites get so big. Because typically I had only been building with one focus keyword per site. Let's go with 150 keywords. And we'll go back up to the city list and we'll make that, I don't know, 300 cities or something like that. Just so you guys can get an idea. Let's go with 350, which is not uncommon. Some of the states, I've only done a few small states at this point. And there's, I've had some states that have had 900 cities, and that includes, townships or whatever. So just excuse me. Let me just make this demonstration really quickly, and then we'll move on. If I put this in here, and let's say that I want my delimiter is to be a tab. Let me open up a notepad and create a tab. Copy that. And then we'll take column 2 and we'll combine them, and you'll see how large this list gets. So this is, you can get really big cities. But the reason I'm doing this, guys, is I want to be able to target as many keywords with one build without having to do 50 builds if I want 50 keywords. I'd rather knock it all out in one build, okay? And then I could duplicate that site multiple times, all right? And so if I go ahead and say generate combinations, it made 52,500 combinations. Okay, and it says that right here, 52,500 combinations. And if I was to copy this whole thing and then paste this back into the Excel file, let's go over a couple columns. Now you'll see that if I scroll down, it goes to 52,500. Okay, so you can see very quickly how the sites can get really, really big if you do that. If you try to target multiple keywords, and that's why I do it on a state level, and that's what I've been testing. Again, I'm not recommending this just yet, but I'm starting to see some pretty good results from it, and that's what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. So that was just a recap as to what my test criteria had been. All right, so I had built 3 sites now, one of which I just built 2 days ago when I got my dedicated server issued. So it hasn't indexed yet at all, really, and that's this one. This is missouri.epiconline.net. I've been buying domains that have some metrics already that are expired instead of buying brand new domains. And I'm having some better results with those. Not only that, but it's just they're not keyword specific domains, which I think can be a spam signal. So anyways, I'm going with those. And this one is a Missouri. I targeted this one. I can't remember how many. I'm not logged into the site, so I can't remember how many posts it was. It was a pretty large site, though. This one, there's no index yet. There's nothing been indexed, so there's not been any clicks. This is one that I did right before the last webinar that we did, and so it's relatively new. I think this site might be 2.5 or 3 weeks old, but it went through about a 2-week period where the site was down, including the next one that I'm going to show you too. Both of those sites were down because my EC2 instance was screwed up. It basically didn't know what to do because it had so much, it was so full, it was at capacity, and it didn't know how to react. So my sites were down. So unfortunately, this site was down for about 2 weeks, and I don't think it could be probably doing better right now. It's still relatively young, but I think it would be doing better had it not been down for 2 weeks, because that's kind of a poor. That sucks. That can hurt your site if it goes down often, or if it goes down for an extended period of time. Fortunately, I think it was young enough that it really didn't do too much damage. But you can see that in the last 30 days, and again, it's a very young site. I don't even think it's 2 weeks old, to be honest with you. We've had 8 clicks, and these are the queries that has been it's been given impressions for. Now, this was the first one that I had. No, actually, this one should be clear. I don't have anything mentioning jacuzzi in here or anything else. It might have been given an impression for jacuzzi, but it's not targeting jacuzzi, because that's one of the things that you want to stay away from, is going after branded terms according to Ring Partners' terms of service. Okay, so this one's not doing bad yet. If we look at the impressions, you can see the impression graph. It's rising from about looks like it started getting impressions on 9/28. And then you could see that it dipped down, and that's probably during the time that the server was down. Okay, right there. And then actually it was still giving impressions, which is odd because it was down for almost 2 weeks. But you can see that the impressions are rising, and that's a good sign. That means that it's starting, probably more of the pages are being indexed, and so it's starting to appear in search more often. All right, and I think that's important. Now, if you look at position is probably going to suck. It says average position is 44.4. If we come over here and we sort by position, you'll see we have a few on page 1, but not very many. Again, the site isn't fully indexed. Lastly, I like to go over to look at pages, because pages, if you sort by page position, you can see now you know which pages, and this will show tag pages too, by the way, if tag pages are ranked, as you can see here. This will show you pages that are actually ranked and what position they are. All right, and how many impressions each page has been given. And that's how I like to identify like certain pockets of low competition that I can go in and really hammer. So, for example, what I mean by that is if I find a few cities, for example, that I'm consistently ranking well in, I can go in and set up a small type site where I'm really hammering away at that city with all the keywords. So what I mean by that is, when I originally generated these walk-in tub keywords, I had about 400 and something, roughly, let's just say 400 keywords that I was able to pull from from Google Suggest, okay, which is how I do my keyword research anyways. And if I would have targeted I couldn't target all 400 keywords on an entire state level based on what I just showed you guys with the Excel sheet, because you could see how that site would be massive. It would be, 300,000-400,000 posts, and there's no way that you can build that. The ATM won't allow it. Plus, it will crush your server. All right, so I've narrowed it way down. I think I've got like 90 keywords or something like that I'm using now for the statewide sites. And in fact, when I get the bigger states, I'm going to have to narrow it down even more. But if you have identified some areas that you can go in and target that are ranking consistently well without doing any additional work, then you could go in and set up some basically regional type sites or county specific sites, and then target that whole list of 400 keywords for all the little areas within a county, if that makes sense. Because then you might have a site that's only, 10,000, 15,000 posts, but it's 10 or 15,000 posts targeting every single long tail keyword phrase plus city modifier that you could possibly imagine. So you get a lot of trickles of traffic coming in from these long tail obscure phrases that don't generate much traffic, but it's enough cumulatively to have an effect. So that's just what I wanted to share with you guys there. Lastly, this is the one that's doing well. This one is the one that I built first. This is for Tennessee. This was the first one that I did, and you can see that we've had 50 clicks in the last 2 weeks. The first click registered on the 2nd of October, and right now it's the 15th of October. And so we've had 50 clicks on this site in under 2 weeks, in 13 days, and that's really good. Okay, so that's what I'm hoping to see in some of these other sites as they continue to mature a little bit, because 50 clicks in under 2 weeks is really, really good, especially with it being a newer site. This site I don't even think is a month old yet. So, that's very promising. All right, if we go take a look at impressions, you'll see the impressions have skyrocketed all of a sudden. It coincides with the level of clicks as well. So you can see that those are they're corresponding graphs here. And if we look at the click-through rate, you can see that that's kind of going up along with everything else. Is kind of following that same position. And then if we sort over here, this is by keyword or query, and you can see that this is the how I'm ranking for these queries. If we come over here and go to pages, we take a look at this. You can see if I sort by position, I've got a lot more in the top 10 here. This is the first 50 results, and if we show, let's go to 250 rows. All these pages are ranked. Look, I've got 250 pages here, or posts, on the Tennessee site that are in the top 10. already. And I just stopped at 250 because that's all I'm displaying. And you can see that I've got 250 posts already in this particular state ranked in the top 10. So now this one, I had built this one before I actually got accepted into Ring Partner. So there was a lot of jacuzzi keywords in here. I had to go through the actual site and delete all the jacuzzi posts. And there was about 12,000 of them on the site, believe it or not. It took me about an hour of just deleting the jacuzzi posts to get rid of them. But my point is, when I'm looking at the click-through right here, I'm looking at clicks, of about 50 clicks in the last 2 weeks. That's promising, okay? So I'm really hoping that some of these state sites will start to perform like this, and I'll certainly be giving you guys updates on a weekly basis to let you know how this is going, because this could be very, very promising. So that's what I wanted to share concerning that. Let me see if there's any questions, and then I want to jump over to the other type of site build that I'm testing right now, and then we'll move on. Michael, you're the only one here again. I did a poor job of not scheduling this soon enough inside the Facebook group, so probably not enough people knew about it, but that's okay. Let me answer your question real quick. Regarding overlayers, should I be concerned about overlaying my money site onto the ATM site if the topic and theme of content is the same? Yes, Michael, do not do that. I do not recommend that you overlay your money site on top of a lead gadget site or an ATM site, because the problem is, it's not white hat. It's against terms of service. And the reason why is because when somebody lands on the website and they just see an overlay, a page, they're not really seeing the content behind it, which is what Google is ranking. So essentially you can catch a penalty from that. I'll talk, you can catch a penalty from that, Michael. So I do not recommend that. What I recommend you do instead is build a landing page on a subdomain of your main domain, or on another domain entirely, that you would overlay on top of your ATM site, that would have a call to action, a contact form that somebody could submit, a button, your phone number real big, whatever it is that you're trying to do. If you're trying to gather email leads, there would be a contact form, or an opt-in form. If you're trying to gather leads for a business, it would be a contact form. If you're trying to generate phone calls, there'll be a phone call. Might be a combination of all of those. If you want to drive traffic to your website, I would make a call to action with a button, a great big button, where the call to action on that page would be to click this button, and when somebody clicked it, it would go over to your money site. Okay, so whatever you do, I would not recommend putting a money site as an overlay onto an ATM site. You could create a landing page that's optimized for conversions that would direct people to take the action that you want them to take. And that may be a click to your website. Okay. But then you would create that landing page on a subdomain or another domain entirely. It really doesn't matter. Just something to where it's not considered the same as your money site. And a subdomain is considered a separate entity. So you could do it on a subdomain of your main domain if you wanted to. That's fine. But that's what I would do. In fact, you could even, theoretically, build a page on your lead gadget site itself, on the site that you built with the ATM. Just create a page on that and then use that page as the overlay. I recommend that you use some sort of landing page builder or creator. I personally use ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels is a bit expensive unless you you have that in the budget. It's great. I love it to death, but it is a bit expensive. There are other things that you can do that are a bit cheaper. There's some plugins that will do that. Lead pages and ClickFunnels are very similar. So you could do either one of those, or you could use plugins, or you could use something like Optimized Press and build landing pages that way. But that's what I recommend that you do. Okay. Regarding content flexibility, is it possible to have one paragraph in the content article change by category? Example might be a list of contracts that would be tied to the county category. How would you write the short code for this? I don't know how you do that, Michael. I'd have to sit down and literally think about that before I would be able to answer that. I don't think it's possible off the top of my head, but I'm not going to swear to that yet, because I would have to think about it, just the way I've kind of developed these methods that I'm testing as well. Because these weren't things that I even thought about doing when I first started building, and I had to figure out how to do that. So I don't know. I'd have to think about that, Michael. I don't think that you could do it, because the problem is you could if you had It could if you had if you were able to create custom lists with paragraphs as your line items, then that would work. But I don't know that you can do that. I don't know that you can have, because the custom lists are really designed to be like, like these, like little short things. I don't know that if you had separate paragraphs, like paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, separated by lines, if that makes sense, I don't know if that would work. I mean, you could test it. Michael, I recommend, guys, I test the shit out of everything. And that's what I would recommend that you do is set up a test domain in the ATM, set up a test domain and test it. Just do something small, like literally build a custom list with 10 paragraphs, and 10 cities, 10 locations, essentially. Just something really, really small, and hit the deploy button. See if it works, and then you go check it out. If it works with only 10 posts, the site will build in about 30 seconds, and then you can go check it out and see if it worked. If it didn't work, then you just delete it, bomb it, whatever, and go back and test again and see what you can do to make it work. I wouldn't recommend that you try to build a national site or a regional site or even a statewide site, for that matter, with a test like that, because it was going to take a while to build. But I would say, do something small. Like when I was trying to troubleshoot my EC2 instances, I created a ATM site with only 3 posts, 3 categories, 3 keywords, and ran it through just to see, because I was trying to see if I could get a small site to build, and I wasn't able to even do that. So my point is, and it took about like literally 10 seconds for the site to build. It was funny. So that's what I would recommend doing. If you got something you want to test, create a very, very small site, 10 or 15 posts, something like that, just to see if that method will work. I don't know that it will. I'd be interested to know if it does, Michael, because I could think about some pretty cool things we could use that for too, probably, if I spent some time thinking about it. All right. I wanted to share something else. We only got 8 minutes, so let me answer these last 2 questions, hopefully quickly. How are you fitting your long list, Excel list, keyword locations into 4 custom lists in ATM? Just the same way as I showed you here, Michael. Okay. This would be, column D would be list 1. Column E would be custom list 2, which would be categories usually. Column F and G would be custom list 3 and 4. All right. I just copy and paste it in. It takes a minute. It kind of freaks the browser out because it's a lot of data being pasted, but you just wait a minute for the browser to start reacting again and hit save. Again, Michael, I wouldn't test that yet because I'm still testing it. I don't know how well it's going to work. This looks very promising, but I can't tell you for sure. And I can't recommend doing it because it's not what Dawn and Brian want. So continue doing what they tell you to do. If I got some stuff that really works well, then I'm sure we can revisit that. And I can also approach Dawn and Brian about it and let them know about how good it's working. Okay. So in the meantime, let me do the testing on the big stuff. If you want to test little stuff, please, by all means, do so and then share your results because I'd like to know. Lead Phantom suggests, is it safe to do this? Your comments. Lead Phantom, I think that's where you rank your own shit and then you can put the client site on top of it. Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't recommend doing it. I really just don't recommend doing it. Because what happens if, and I know what you're talking about, it's very much like the double agent plugin is another one that does something very similar. It's like WP overlayer, except that you can do it on a more granular level. And I understand that. But my point is what happens if you rent a page out, you overlay the client site on it, and then the client catches a penalty because of what you did? Don't you think you're going to be liable for that? And I mean, not only liability from a legal standpoint, but wouldn't you feel awful if the client caught a penalty because you did it? I just wouldn't recommend doing it. I would recommend to the client, if you were able to, for demonstration purposes or to show them what you can do, then I would absolutely do it. And what I mean by that is if I had a page ranked in a city and I contacted a client or they contacted me because of that Lead Phantom overlayer plugin, and they hit the, they clicked on the button to say that they were interested, blah, blah, blah. You could overlay their site on it long enough to close the sale and then tell them, hey, listen, we can leave this up for a day or two or whatever while I build you a landing page. Work that into your price, by the way, so that you're getting paid to build the landing pages. You can hire somebody on Fiverr or what I would recommend, Upwork, which is formerly Odesk, that will build landing pages for you. and that for, for 25 bucks, 30 bucks, something like that. And you could charge the client an additional $97 setup fee for a landing page. In fact, you could have a template that you just used over and over again, but you still charge them $97 because you got to swap the content out on the template, right? And tell them, look, I can overlay your site right onto here. However, what I suggest doing is that we create a landing page very similar to what an AdWords landing page would be, a pay-per-click landing page, and say, I can do that for you. It costs, $97. I can have it done for you in the next 48 hours. And then we'll overlay the landing page on that's optimized for conversions so that we maximize the traffic that does land on this page into actual leads. That's what I would recommend that you do. And that way you can also turn in another small source of revenue out of that potential lead. Okay. All right. So that said, I just want to share one more thing. We got to wrap it up because Brian's webinar starts in 5 minutes. So there's a launch for an IM product. It's called Video Traffic X. It's being launched on Tuesday, October 20th. That's next Tuesday. It looks to be an interesting product. It's not. I'm doing a launch deck case study for my coaching business, for my students inside of Semantic Mastery, and so I'm testing ATM builds on that too for launch deck, which I think is interesting because as a brand new product, there's not usually a lot of competition. With a brand new product, there's not really any competition because the product name doesn't exist yet. But then when the product gets close to launch, especially for products in the IM industry, the internet marketing industry, there's a ton of SEOs and marketing guys that jump in to try to launch Jack and capitalize off the flood of sales that come in during the IM, the promotional launch for the new product. So I don't have a lot of experience on launch jacking because I do mostly local SEO. But I decided I was going to do a case study with my students, and I decided I would try as part of it building a ATM site, and I built a couple of them, targeting that product keyword plus city. Although it's not really a type of a product that people would be searching with a geographic modifier, so product name plus city. Most people wouldn't search for that. They just search for product name only, really. I figured I'd give it a shot, and what could it hurt? It took me an hour's time to set the content up and to build the sites, deploy the sites. It took me about an hour. That was it. So for an hour invested as a test, I thought it was worth it. So I just want to share these with you very quickly. Let's see. In fact, if we look for the keyword, I think one of my pages are indexed already for that. That's funny. That's my video. It's not even been streamed yet. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I was looking at this earlier. Yeah, this is it here. This is the site that I built. And this, you can see the directory page. It's not even, guys, I just deployed this site yesterday, I think it was. So it's not even been, indexed really yet. And so this is the affiliate site. And basically I'm going to overlay a sales page, or what's called a bridge page, which will connect people to the actual affiliate sales page, the sales page with my affiliate link. So it's called a bridge page. I'm going to create a bridge page on ClickFunnels. I started it already, but it's not complete. And I'm just going to lay that using WP Overlayer on top of this site so that no matter where anybody is in the country, when they click on it, they're going to see my bridge page, not this. So disregard that this is just whatever it is, but you can see that it's the name of the product is Video Traffic X. I built two sites, Video Traffic X Bonus, targeting video, and it's just a regular national site, just like what Brian and Dawn teach. And so I'm curious. What's interesting is my directory page, which is just the page that lists the categories, which is down here. This page, because I submitted it to Google Search Console to be crawled and indexed, it's ranked at what, number 13, with, for whatever reason, this particular county and state right here. But I thought that was interesting because it's not even indexed yet. The launch is in about 5 days. It's about 5 days, but I'm curious to see if I can get any traffic generated from this site. This is one of two. Like I said, I did bonus.videotrafficxx.com, and then I did review.videotrafficxx.com, and it was the same content. So it only took me about an hour to get everything set up, and then I deployed two sites. And I'm going to see, if this does any good or not. I really don't know, but I figured I'd share it with you guys because this is just another one of my tests that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to produce in the lab. So I'll share with you guys the results next week. Next week, it will have only been 2 days, a day and a half after the launch, because we got the early webinar next week, guys, at 7:30 a.m. So probably the following week, I'll have definitive results as to whether or not I generated any traffic and sales from these launch jack ATM sites. I hadn't heard of anybody else doing that yet. I'm sure other people have, but this will be my first attempt at it, and I'm curious just to see how it works. So, okay, that looks like it, guys. 8 o'clock on the money. Go watch Brian Prinz and the Passive and Massive webinar and see what kind of knowledge he's going to spit out tonight. And we will see you guys next week at 7:30 a.m. This is Bradley Benner with ATM and Lead Gadget.